Okay, Bukayo Saka, let's have a serious conversation about this kid. I know it's the easiest conversation to have in any video revolving around Arsenal and football because number one, he gets clicks, and number two, he's just amazing. So, as an Arsenal fan, it's very easy to talk about him. But let's have a conversation about him because there was a lot of fear before the Arsenal Liverpool game that Bukayo Saka might not be fit and this could be a sticky one. We saw the leaked photos of him with the squad go into the hotel and there was a bit of hope. But the full confidence that he could be starting the game, I don't know if we all had that confidence. Well, I certainly didn't. I thought that he'd probably be in the squad and it'd be a last minute check. But when I seen his name on that team sheet, my confidence just flew. Because without him in that front line, we don't look as creative. We don't look like that threat that we could be when he's there. And he proved exactly why inside the first 10 minutes. Don't get me wrong, second half he tired, which is understandable. He's not fully fit. But that first half was literally the Bukayo Saka show. Don't get me wrong, the ball from Ben White to assist Saka's goal was insane. And Ben White, that's a whole different discussion because his performance coming in at centre-back for the first time in, 2 years was amazing as well. Thomas Partey, absolutely amazing at right-back. I was a little bit fearful for that because the past few times he's played in that position is not looked too good. This time, however, had Luis Diaz completely locked up apart from 2 times, and that was it. But back to Bukayo Saka, because that goal, I don't know if there's enough talk about that goal today. And I'm not quite happy about it, because that goal was absolutely world class. He literally put Andy Robertson on toast. And ate him. He literally ate him in that first half. No, did he? The touch, the run, the speed, the skill to get past him, and then the finish as well. And then the arrogance in the celebration. I think he just knows he is that guy now. And we're becoming accustomed to seeing Bukayo Saka turn up and be the guy in the big games for Arsenal. And that's why he's the poster boy for Arsenal. That's why is he the star of the Premier League? It's a good discussion to have. I mean, you got Haaland there. I don't think Foden's the poster boy of the Premier League, not at all. Mohamed Salah, but you're going to tell me that Mo Salah shines in every game for Liverpool? I know he scores lots of goals. I know he has those moments of magic, but against us, I didn't notice him until we scored. Timber had him completely locked up and he's been injured for however long. The only moment he scored was when Timber and Gabriel came off. Where did the goal come from? That left-hand side. So, as far as I'm concerned, Bukayo Saka, it was his show in this game. I am not saying Bukayo Saka is better than Salah. I'm not saying he's going to reach the heights that Salah's achieved in his career. But for Saka to be approaching his 24th birthday and already have 50 Premier League goals and over 40 assists for Arsenal in the Premier League is completely crazy. And he will not get the respect he deserves because he doesn't rub his shoulders when he scores, or he doesn't say chippy chips in interviews, and he doesn't drop into pockets and role players like Phil Foden does. But what he does do is he guarantees you performances. 9 times out of 10, he'll give you performances. And this is what happens when you don't double and triple up against Saka. You get absolutely rinsed and you get absolutely punished. And this is a rare time. We saw a team take the approach of going, you know what, we're going to be brave. We're going to trust our left back to stay on Saka and deal with him. And look what happened. I don't see other players get treated in the same way that Saka does. And I mean that with respect to Saka because he's getting literally double and triple teamed every single game. Whenever it's a 1v1, apart from Nathan Ake, he wins that battle by far. We saw that against Robertson against Liverpool yesterday. But while we're talking about the game, I think it's very relevant to have a discussion about the negative things around the game. I could sit here and I could criticise Arsenal. I could criticise our approach in the second half. I could criticise tactics. I could criticise Arteta. But I think the thing on my mind right now is just disappointment with officiating in this country and punditry in this country because I think both of them are competing for being the very worst in Europe right now. And it's very worrying because they're working hand in hand with each other. I'm not seeing Sky Sports pundits calling out the terrible officiating anymore. Why? And then all of a sudden I'm seeing the head of the PGMOL, Howard Webb, on the shows with Gary Neville. I'm seeing Carragher question the officiating and then instantly delete the tweet. Why? What is going on? I don't want to come up with any conspiracy theories, but the questions and theories I'm proposing right now, I think you can put into your own mind and unravel them yourself, because I think it's a little bit concerning. But let's not talk about conspiracies. Let's just talk about facts and what we've seen specifically in this game, or on the day, the weekend. Let's just talk about what we've seen. I'm going to start earlier on in the day. 2 o'clock kickoff. Crystal Palace versus Tottenham. Mickey van der Ven, best centre back in the Premier League apparently, gets absolutely roasted. Pulls down a player who's through on goal, and he's the last man. Yellow card. What did we see last week? Oh, we saw Saliba in the exact same situation against Bournemouth. VAR intervened. Have a look at that, mate. That looks like a red card because he's the last man, even though Ben White's covering. Nonetheless, if it's a red card, it's a red card. But where's the consistency? Because once again, we're seeing other teams get away with doing things, and when it comes to Arsenal, it's check the badge. Oh no, let's punish them because while they're about to win this game, basically. So let's punish them quick. And I think the way Arteta's handled the media at the moment, avoiding the fines, because, oh, by the way, managers and players aren't allowed to call out the terrible and dodgy officiating in this country, because if they do, they have to pay those officials money for calling them out for their bad decisions. While players and managers, when they play poorly and manage poorly and their tactics are wrong, and this is wrong and that is wrong, and they have to answer to the fans, to the media, why they've not performed. Whereas when it's the officials, every single week, nothing. Oh, you know what? You've made a scandalous decision. We'll send you down to the Championship. A week later, despite being terrible in the Championship, you can come straight back up and continue to officiate in this country. But anyway, I want to stick to the Arsenal-Liverpool game because there's a lot to unpack there. With the decisions of the officials, of course. Right, the Martinelli one. Penalty or not? To even ask that question, I'm questioning my own intelligence, because that was a stonewall penalty. For that not to have been given is completely scandalous. Simply, that is scandalous. If that was Man City at 3 o'clock, you know they're getting a penalty. But when it's Arsenal, nah, it's alright, leave it. Van Dijk kicking out at Havertz twice in the space of about 5 seconds. Not even a yellow card. But when Trossard kicks the ball, or Declan Rice taps the ball to the side, oh, second yellow, get off. Which then makes me worry even more, because how is that allowed, kicking out at a player, but tapping the ball 5 centimetres to the right is worthy of a second yellow to completely change the outcome of a football match? We've also got the corner at the very end. Gabriel Jesus earns a very obvious corner. Last kick of the game that would have been. No, goal kick. Everybody could see that that was a corner, but the linesman and the referee think otherwise. But let's get to the big one, because this is a big one, and it's very worrying. The rest are concerning, but this one in particular is very damning to the officials in this country. Well, Anthony Taylor in particular. For how I saw it, I was very confused as to why he blew the whistle. I was thinking maybe there was an offside or something, and then I was wondering, well, they're actually told to continue play until the very end. We've seen it go on for what feels like 5 minutes after an offside, just to keep the game going in case a goal comes out of it. So Kivior jumps up, wins a header against Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai doesn't cry, doesn't moan. In fact, none of his teammates do. The game continues, it reaches Havertz, he goes through on goal, Anthony Taylor blows his whistle. Just as Havertz was about to shoot. Through on goal, late in the game. And if you haven't watched it back closely and watched Anthony Taylor, I urge you to do it right now, because this is where I'm concerned. Number one, it wasn't a foul. And I think you can take the reactions from the Liverpool players to know that wasn't a foul. But even if it was, why didn't he just blow his whistle straight away? Why did he wait for the ball to reach Havertz, and just as he's about to take a shot, he blows the whistle? Now, for me, that seemed like a bit of a panic. That seemed like if they score this, they've won the game, and I need to stop it. But maybe I'm looking too much into it. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. Maybe I'm just using common sense and it's pretty evident what he was doing. I don't know. I just think if that was any other team, their fans would be saying the exact same thing. But anyway, the officiating. You all have your opinions, you've all seen it. If you disagree, then you disagree. But that's how I interpreted the situation. I want to talk about the punditry after the game. Sky Sports. Again. These Sky Sports pundits, everyone loves them because they have their own shows. They travel around Europe and, they give us content. But when it comes to actually analysing a football match, they struggle. Well, they don't think they struggle. They think they're absolutely spot on. Or are they trying to get clicks and interactions? I'm not quite sure if they're being told what to say, what they're saying. But for me, it's every single week now. And I can't actually listen to the punditry anymore. I can't listen to the analysis and insights for Arsenal matches anymore because I listen to it and I think, you don't actually watch Arsenal matches. You're talking about Arsenal from a rival fan sort of point of view. And I'm talking about Jamie Carragher, I'm talking about Roy Keane, I'm talking about Paul Scholes in the past, Gary Neville countless times, and it's all the time now. Every single time we go into this game and everyone's talking, all I'm hearing is, Liverpool going to smash you. Liverpool going to batter you. Look at the form they're on. Arne Slot, he's the second coming of Pep Guardiola. He's this, he's that. Arsenal, you're playing so bad. Despite playing with 10 men for 3 matches, look at your stats. Look at the lack of possession you have in matches. Look at the lack of creativity you have. You're playing absolutely terrible. You're not the same this season. Again, despite playing 3 of the games with 10 men. Anyway, we're going to the game. Arsenal have injuries. There's moments in that first half where it looks like men against children because Arsenal are completely dominating and completely running all over Liverpool, and it looks embarrassing, and it looks like it could be a 3-1er. It looks like it could be a 4-1er. Second half, like I've mentioned, Arsenal, I'm not quite sure what the approach was in the second half, but nonetheless, it wasn't good enough, and we allowed Liverpool to take control of the game. Arsenal then go and lose 2 of their defenders in the back 4, and the back 4 turns into Thomas Partey at right back, Ben White at centre back, Kivior at centre back, and 18-year-old Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back. And Jamie Carragher was trying to tell me that Arsenal didn't go for it enough. The one time Arsenal's back line stepped up forward in that second half with that makeshift back line, guess what happened? Ball over the top, Salah ends up scoring. By the way, Arsenal were leading at that point. That Jamie Carragher was expecting us to put our foot on the gas and go for a third. And what, are we going to sit here and pretend that Arsenal didn't try and score a third goal? Because like I just mentioned, they pushed the line up high and they tried to go for a third. That's how I saw it. But Jamie Carragher doesn't see that. Roy Keane questioning Arsenal's mentality for the way we're playing. Really? Are we going to just sit here and pretend that we're 25 games into the season? 9 games in. A third of the games in the Premier League that Arsenal have played, they've played with 10 men. They've lost 1 game against Bournemouth. They've gone to the Etihad, they've drew. They were on top before losing Trossard. Second half, they had to sit back and defend, and they conceded in the very last second. Against Brighton, Arsenal were completely dominating Brighton. Declan Rice gets sent off for a madness, and then Brighton score and get a draw out of it. Bournemouth, Saliba makes that mistake that other players are allowed to make apparently. And then Arsenal completely capitulate. And that's the one game where I'd sit back and say, you know what, fair play. Arsenal were terrible in that game. Regardless of being down to 10 men, not good enough. We're still talking about an Arsenal team without their main creative outlet in midfield, their captain, their best player arguably, in Martin Odegaard. We're going to sit here and pretend that we didn't watch Arsenal go to Villa and smash them? Are we going to pretend these games aren't happening? Are we going to just falsely analyse Arsenal consistently? Because I'm going to go back to it. Everyone thought Arsenal were going to lose to Liverpool. Arsenal draw. And the whole conversation, all the talking points are negative towards Arsenal once again. It's Arsenal are this. Arsenal are just not good enough. The mentality, Arteta's playing like Jose Mourinho. Well, yeah. In moments, he's having to adapt and play more pragmatic like Jose Mourinho. But you're completely clueless if you're going to try and say that Arteta is a Jose Mourinho type manager. Are we going to sit here and pretend that Arsenal didn't score the second most amount of goals in the Premier League last season? Arsenal in the first half of the Premier League season last year were much more calm, measured, maybe not as fluid in the forward areas that we would have liked them to be. And for me, I think that's where we fell short. Not the Villa game in the second half of the season, not going to the Etihad and drawing in the second half of the season. I think we should have picked up more points in the first half of the season. Nonetheless, we learned from the season before that, when Arsenal were going all out in the first half of the season, due to not expecting to be in a title race with Man City. And guess what happened? We burnt out and we got absolutely battered in the title race, and it was a bottling. So what did we do? What did Arteta do? He learned. He was more measured in the first half of last season, and then he went all out in the second half of the season. And we finished 2 points behind the great Man City, who actually won a treble the season before. I also don't see the same level of criticism for Liverpool and City when they play rubbish. Because as far as I'm concerned, the games that I see of City this season haven't been scintillating. Maybe the excuse is Rodri's not there, but that's not acceptable when we say Odegaard's not in our team. Liverpool lose to Forest. Not the same level of criticism that Arsenal get for losing to Bournemouth. Again, I'll go back to it. Everyone was expecting Liverpool to smash Arsenal. Everyone was saying Arsenal were rubbish this season. Not the same this season. Out of the title race this season already, after losing to Bournemouth only 8 games in at that point. And then Liverpool draw. For large parts of that game, I was looking at that Liverpool team thinking, you are not winning the title this season. We are levels above you and we're missing some of our key players. But they have moments of magic from players like Salah, and they got fortunate with our injuries, and they got fortunate with the decisions that the referee made. Let's have it right. This isn't excuse making. And I go back to the punditry, because it's just, you know what, we don't actually watch Arsenal, but we're just going to give our opinions based on, well, we don't really like Arsenal because we used to play for rival clubs, and Arsenal fans are annoying and loud. So we don't really like them. We're not going to give proper insight and context as to why they're winning and losing and drawing games and their performances and the injuries and the officiating and all this. That doesn't matter. We don't like Arsenal. They haven't got the mentality. Arteta's a boring manager. He plays like Jose Mourinho now. I mean, it's so lazy every single week. The analysis around Arsenal is so lazy. It's so off the scale. And from Arsenal fans to listen to it, it's so boring and tiring now. Because it's obvious they don't watch Arsenal play week in, week out. I am sorry, but it is impossible for Gary Neville to have his own businesses, be a Man United fan, watch Salford games, do all of this stuff, and sit there and then watch all of Arsenal's games from minute 1 to 90 and really take in the game like we do. For me, it's impossible. But we're listening to people like him and Roy Keane talk about Arsenal after our big games. Because they're only there for the big games. Remember, they don't sit there and analyse the smaller games. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I've given my little rant about the officiating. I've given my rant about the punditry. And I'm sure I'll be doing the same in the next couple of weeks. But I'll leave it on this. Arsenal have Newcastle next, then they have Chelsea. Win those 2 games, get 6 points there. This title race is very much still there for us to win, in my opinion. I think we've got rid of some really difficult games. I'm not sure how serious the Gabriel injury is. I'm not sure how serious the Timber injury is. I'm hoping not too serious. But what we can say is in regards to a player like Miles Lewis-Skelly is he's ready to come into the team. Ben White, he's good enough to play in that right centre-back role. And we know that Saliba can play in that left centre-back role. So we can work around it. Thomas Partey did really, really well in that right-back role. Declan Rice looks at his very best again playing as a number 6. So there's ways around it and I'm sure we'll work it out. But one thing I do need to leave this on, which is a slight criticism of Arteta and the performances and the team, and no excuse making around the officiating and any of that. With what we can do to do better is get someone natural in that midfield to create goals and get things ticking. And for me, the obvious answers there is Ethan Nwaneri. I don't care if he's 17 years old. I don't care if he's inexperienced. From what I've seen in the cameos already, he does better in that role than what Kai Havertz does. Get Kai Havertz back up front, not in midfield, please. Trossard, let him rotate with Martinelli and Sterling on the left. Because for me, again, Martinelli, that's another discussion. I'll have that at another date. But right now, get Nwaneri in this midfield because we need something in there. Please. Thank you. Anyways, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.